Hello everyone. Good afternoon. Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Post-COVID-19 Crisis Accelerating Digital Transformation for Business Survival. Thank you for joining us today. First, let me introduce myself. I am T.S. Goh Ting Ting, the Academic Department Head of School of Engineering, UOW Malaysia, KDU UC. Thank you for inviting me as a moderator for this event. I would like to start with little introduction of digital transformation. Can you all hear me clearly? Or do I need to use headphone?
We can hear you.
Can hear me? Okay.
Yeah, you're very clear.
I try to speak louder. Because during meeting time, sometimes they will say, oh, I cannot hear you. I'm too soft. Okay, digital transformation is the use of technology, any source of technology to improve business. These digital technologies could be enterprise resources planning software, financial accounting software, automation software, robotic, Internet of Things, or artificial intelligence. Today, we have invited two captains of industry here to share their experience in digital transformation. We have T.S. Dr. Kelly Wee, Director of InfoPro Sdn Bhd. T.S. Dr. Kelly experienced top leadership over 25 years in ICT industry in large global MNC, being CIO business, CMO and Regional Director of Sales, Marketing, Business Development, PMO and Operation with global coverage in large enterprise, telco, BFSI, manufacturing, corporate, SMB, public sector, and commercial customers. Welcome, T.S. Dr. Kelly.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
We also welcome Mr. Bala. Mr. Bala, Chief Technical Officer, Radio Broadcasting Astro Sdn Bhd. Mr. Bala is a seasoned broadcast professional with more than 25 years experience in planning, designing, integration, and implementation of large-scale radio broadcasting complex. A strong track record of building and retaining expert engineering teams, developing corporate technology strategy, designing cutting-edge radio studios, and being a key player in developing next-generation console technology for radio industry. He also played an instrumental role in setting up the radio operations in India, Indonesia, and China. Welcome, Mr. Bala.
Hi, good afternoon to all.
After more than a year of unprecedented pandemic situation, many business enterprises began to explore business opportunity based on digital culture. I would like to start by asking a couple of questions to Dr. Kelly. Dr. Kelly, the COVID-19 pandemic has placed extraordinary demand on leaders in business. How should a leader manage the business in the face of COVID-19 crisis? And what action plan needs to be developed for business survivability?
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Ting. I think it's a very relevant question, especially we are slowly moving into the recovery phase. To respond to the first question with regards to the how should a leader manage the business in the face of COVID-19 crisis, the good news is that we know from theory and practice the right approach and mindsets of every leaders in terms of adaptability. Leaders should move swiftly and proactively to alter their course and chart new one in order to capitalize on dislocations in the markets. There are four areas I'll look into to discuss today. From the economic sectors, from the economic perspective, as COVID-19 creates further economic uncertainty and loss, maximizing returns, managing risks, and ensuring the continued health of your business demands requires a depth understanding of changing market condition, together with the government policies. Timely, in-depth political and economic scenarios analysis for the outbreak and potential path to recovery for individual economies is increasingly critical to business planning and commercial decisions. In terms of the economic situations remains highly fluid. Uncertainty about the length and depth of this pandemic crisis related economic effects, fueling perceptions of risk and volatility in the financial markets and corporate decision making. In addition, uncertainties concerning the global pandemic and the effectiveness of public policies intended to curtail spreads are adding to market volatility. In a growing number of cases, corporations are postponing investment decisions. Laying off workers are still continue to happen. And in some cases, companies are filing for bankruptcies. Compounding economic situation is a historic drop in terms of price of crude oil, which we can see that with the recent Delta variants, it's impacting the oil prices as well. And this is actually will cause these inflations, while also contributing to the decline in the global economy through various channels. I think last week there's a US job data that shares instead of adding 700,000 jobs in the month of August, in fact, the actual data only shows 235,000. So there is still fears instilled within us as a society or businesses in terms of the new Delta variants that may impact in terms of uncertainty. From the technology perspective, a new combination of technology and talent are delivering decisive advances in customer experience. So operational efficiencies and companies need to take advantage of in terms of looking of competitive edge in terms of improving the operational efficiencies through digital technologies. So digital transformations should and had driven positive outcomes, whether it's streamlining processes, harnessing data, or shaping entirely new ways of doing business. This is about uniting every part of the enterprise in a common purpose, considering technology to maintain business survivability, accelerating automation amid this pandemic crisis. Companies should adopt using digital technologies such as robotic process automation, artificial intelligence, cloud, big data, and other automation techniques in order to weather downturn and position themselves for recovery. Obviously, our government talk a lot about IR 4.0, which will drive all sectors of economy. We can observe this through a recent rise of adoptions of e-wallets. With these pandemics, you can see that a lot of people are using e-wallets, especially such as Touch and Go, Grabs, and many more, because people are trying to distance from one another. This gradually actually forming a cashless society. And also in terms of banking, increase in the use of digital channels when performing banking transactions, whether mobile or internet banking. I myself used to be a legacy visiting physical branches, but I pushed myself to move into digital channels to do banking transactions. And also in the rise of e-commerce, especially as a business platform, not just for B2C business, but also B2B due to the lockdown. This is just some of the examples in change in customer behavior adopting digital technologies for continuing with their normal activities in the light of prolonged lockdown. From the organization perspective, time is of essence. As we know, we're going into the recovery phase. Companies are striving to combat immediate impact of this post-COVID-19 crisis. In terms of they need to revisit in terms of laying the foundation, strong foundation for a strong future with the lesson learned of this crisis. In terms of organizations, it plays an important role, especially on driving business survivability. The continuance of COVID-19 impacts on the world economies have been so massive that it has unraveled everything that our corporations and millions of workers have endured over cycles of global crisis. Even from the sustainable business perspective, the priorities of battling this, the threats of climate has changed, pushed back in light of more urgent issues, especially due to this pandemic. Since workers are being laid off, companies are shutting down. So digital adaptation is very important. So therefore, companies will need to re-strategize and venture into different line. Some companies, in fact, they are also doing business process re-engineering, which involve radical redesign of core business processes. This is in terms of looking into improvement in of their balance sheets of profitability as well. Such companies, for example, what most of you may have known, which is like Razer. In fact, during the pandemic, they have even looking into re-engineering of their business to produce masks, for example, during the pandemic crisis. How does this business process re-engineering works? Basically, companies need to refocus in terms of company values on the customer needs, which is now, as during the pandemics, masks and gloves are necessities. So some of the businesses can re-engineer to streamline their business to move into a profitable sort of sectors. Redesigning some of these core processes using IT and digital technologies to enable improvement. Rethink of basic organizational and also people issues, improve business processes across the organizations. And finally, the main lifeline, I've always said, lifeline of companies is about financial positions. In view of the financial conditions, leaders should focus on companies turnaround, looking into refinancing or even restructuring plan. The skill sets lies in the speeds of response in initial requests, of also in terms of revisit with the lenders or even investors. Understanding client problems is very important. Finding a bespoke tailor-made solution to those problems. Leaders should provide the support and guidance necessary for their clients, enable them to work through their current financial difficulties in a cost-effective manner. Before the COVID-19 crisis, having a run of successful business for many years, it is understandable that the financial and administrative issues facing business owners and stakeholders. The sole focus of corporate turnaround and restructuring services is to help the client to trade out current financial difficulties. Adjusting companies' financial plan has become a priority. Once all these economic sectors is opening up, as we know, companies should reconsider the ongoing projects, cut marketing expense, and also administrative costs in light of restating revenue forecast for 2021 till the year end. Focus on cash and managing cash flows tightly, forecasting on a rolling basis. Realign product offering or commercial organization and channel partners to respond to this changing market condition, and also with the lessons that we have learned during these pandemics. For companies, it is necessary to have an urgent and clear engagement and communication with their investor and lenders, as we are facing, as those companies are facing increased scrutiny and heightened reporting requirement with regards to clear understanding of their revised plan in terms of future financial position of the business. Based on this experience, investment in terms of data analytic tools becomes a necessity. Reason being is that information needs to be in real time, transparent, realistic and accurate. That's where a lot of these reportings are required. So in terms of adopting latest digital technologies like what I mentioned earlier, AI, cloud analytics and security becomes necessary for the business. Second, to respond to your second question, what action plans need to be developed for business viability? The impact and effect of COVID-19 we felt critically by business, in fact, globally. And over these 3 months in our country, it had hit actually a lot of SMEs companies very badly with adverse impact, especially on many employees which were out of job, and even witnessed with the rise of suicidal cases in the country. Therefore, as a companies trying to remain staying afloat, and with government allowing all sectors of the economy to open for business, It is always important for companies to draft the right strategy and action plan for the business to run effectively. Lesson from others can be a good point for providing the appropriate action plan. We know that accurately predicting the eventual impact of the outbreak is very challenging. However, further evidence, for example, the experience of China economy has become much more integrated with global economy, not just only SARS crisis. In fact, with this COVID-19, we can see how they recover so fast. And also during the recent Delta variants, we can take that as a lesson learned points for companies to look at certain scenarios. This pandemic is also presenting a lot of specific potential business challenges, like what I mentioned earlier, around people, commercial operations, disrupting the whole supply, and you can see government changing their policies, and sometimes at the great times there is a grey line of SOP as well. On an operational level, prolonging restrictions like what we have gone through on employee movement create immediate logistically challenges. But the impact on morale created by uncertainty magnifies the impact. Thus, finding ways to invest and drive digital technologies, creating automations becomes a key consideration. A robust response plan with timely and effective communication with both internal and external stakeholders absolutely crucial. Example, the spike of use of virtual meeting platform and unified communication such as Microsoft Teams, Google Meets, Amazon, and Zoom becomes an essential in our daily communication platform as a tool during this lockdown. It becomes people are slowly adapting it as a new normalcy. One key aspect is that companies should have in terms of re-strategizing their business plan is to have a clear visions of direction, review their long-term strategy once they have reboot their business in coming short time. Consider how your competitors might react and what longer terms of market conditions may look like. Redefine your business desired and state since the crisis may soon be behind us, and determine where to invest to facilitate accelerated growth in learning to live with a new normalcy such as digital technologies. Companies will need to emphasize on investing digital technologies to transform or incorporate this strategy as part of their moving forward business. Creating this response strategy based on this principle and values will provide a great opportunity to clarify, promote, and live our organization's value. Focus on reliable data will be key. Strong data reinforces a central element of crisis planning, exploring different scenarios on how they should affect the business in a short, medium, and long term. Adopting technology to help provides a better accuracy of using the appropriate data for meaningful insights to reboot your business with planned strategy. There's old saying, cash is king. Leaders should relook into supply chain as well and economic countermeasures determining companies' financial position. COVID-19 is impacted critically on the supply chain of business. That's what we can't deny. With this prolonging outbreak, to settle down to normalcy. Factories and businesses extended shutdowns during this COVID pandemic will not help business, or some even closed down completely, giving major impact to business with short supplies. In fact, these are what we are experiencing globally, not just only in country. Even with more employees start to return to work in the office, however, this is still the productivity may still be impacted due to not operating at maximum capacity level. And finally, transportation and logistics sectors, while companies are opening up, it's still limited. Airlines are being allowed to destination. Some even suspended services or even cancel routes. So this is definitely impacting businesses through the supply chain. And this production disruption in one company will give adverse effect in others, as companies will struggle to find alternatives. It is key to note that supply chain strategy and companies will struggle to find alternative. It is key to note that supply chain strategy needs to factor in likelihood and impact of suspension and shutdowns. Alternatively, your clients alternatives clients of the company might want to renegotiate price because of the impact on their own business. Ultimately, they need to consider all available steps to manage their own financial position. Once companies understand their financial position, it's time to take action so that can minimally address liquidity and working capital requirements. So basically, these are 4 areas that I look in the perspective of action plans needs to be taken with this post-COVID-19 crisis.
So for enterprise or business, they have to invest in digital technology, and it's not easy as well to plan for the business to run smoothly. At the same time, must follow the SOP, right? Yeah, like me, myself, previously, I seldom use e-wallet, but now, like it or not, I will have to use it, right? So digital transformation is more about transformation. Transformation is really not easy, right? Yeah. So, great. I would also like to learn from Dr. Kelly. How does technology and talents help in managing uncertainty through digital transformation?
Okay, so basically in terms of like what I mentioned about technologies, basically when I talk about automations, right? So a lot of times since we are working from home, most of the time a lot of those physical involvement in terms of day-to-day activity, for instance, like from the logistics side or from the area, we can minimize the number of workers in the office through automations. So we don't need to have a full range of workers to be in the office to do those things. So automations will definitely drive a better in terms of, especially at this point, at this juncture, things like IoT, Internet of Things, where you can have sensors for instance, in a manufacturing plant, where you instead of those physical workers to be there physically in the plant, you can actually try to incorporate some of these automation techniques or ways of minimizing the use of human labor that can help to drive down the risk of people being fronting those in terms of distancing yourself from one another. How does that work? That in terms of talent, definitely reskilling and upskilling. Reskilling and upskilling, those are important, especially for those who are not digital technology savvy. They will definitely need to reskill, which in fact later I will discuss in depth. Yeah, in a later part, where basically in terms of organizational trainings, and also in terms of individual independent learning from yourself to beef up your digital skills. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Kelly. So our student have to ensure they are industry ready, with the knowledge of automation, IoT, artificial intelligence, though. Okay.
Absolutely.
So, Mr. Bala, broadcasting is an essential service during COVID-19. It has been recorded an increase either in commercial radio listening and TV watching time. Yeah. What digital transformation do you do for radio broadcasting, and what do you do differently that accelerate the digital transformation journey?
Okay, radio is a medium that connects people because it is happening right here, right now.
Yes.
It is fast and interactive. As our world has turned upside down by the pandemic, radio stations have had to adapt to ensure the continuity of their music content, news, and overall broadcasting. So what we did was we implemented a lot of new systems and technology so that the radio operations are not disrupted in any way. So what we did to challenge ourselves is all our messages need to be precise and clear within 30 seconds. If the listeners or the user cannot get your message within 30 seconds, you consider fail. At the same time, all the systems which we have designed, the user need to, if let's say, for example, user need to complete whatever task or he or she want to do in a 3 steps. We also have a powerful radio app called Shock.my. So we practice all that idea into that particular digital domain. So that if the user cannot get what they want within the 3 clicks or 4 clicks, the app considered fail. So that's our mindset which we implement for the digital transformation initiative. So to answer your second question, what we did differently for our transformation journey, we approached everything in 3 simple steps. First, the business needs to understand the user behavior as what they want at this moment of time and what they would like to have in the near future. Secondly, the business need to be very agile in adapting to the different scenarios. And the third, business subsequently need to formulate a solution for successful operations. So to achieve this, the whole teams need to be optimized. You need to manage the team dynamics, and most importantly, they need to be reskilled. As Dr. Kelly mentioned just now, everyone in the organization need to be reskilled. So even we have, even this morning I read one article published by one of the business school. They said, you reskill or you resign. Simple as that.
Yes.
So like, why we say the whole team need to be optimized is, since all of us work from home and the pace of each of the staffs are different. So in order for you to transform, all of you, or all of the staff need to be act in the same speed. If one guy moves like a horse and one guy moves like a turtle, you cannot achieve your business transformation. Like for us in a radio business, we treat everything like a 30-second. So for us, every 30 seconds is one commercial value, and every 30-second loss is a revenue loss for us. So I mean that's what we did differently, and it's a transformation journey is like ongoing.
So everyone need to transform.
Everyone need to be transformed.
No other choice, right? Like
No
me
other
also. So our users are very demanding nowadays, right? It is a challenge world in broadcasting. Yeah, because like what Mr. Bala say, in 3 to 5 seconds, you need to settle everything. The web page, all the fast response must be there, right? So great, thanks, Mr. Bala. Moving to our next question, what kind of training and development are required since we are transforming? And then what are the training and development are required to accelerate the digital or business transformation?
Training and development is an ongoing process in any organization. To accelerate the transformation initiative, we need to learn from mistakes and quickly adapt. That's one of the important factors. So we need to have the ability to visualize. They are nearly impossible to imagine. That will disrupt everything. We wouldn't know. I mean, if your staff are unable to visualize that, then you can call that as a failure in your training. See, for example, education industry. Did you all ever thought that you all need to conduct a class virtually? No, because of the pandemic, you all transform to a new idea. So that's what I mean. You should your staff need to able to visualize what is nearly impossible. The moment you visualize, then subsequently you can work out a plan to implement that. So in other words, In other words, we need to understand and embrace the change which we are already in so that we can harness the potentials. See, as an organization, what we did differently was we subscribed to the LinkedIn Learning for all the staff, and it gives the staff the opportunity to learn at their own pace. So that's one of the things which we really did. And one more thing, what we really learned was like everyone is great at something or have some life experience that they may willing to share. So the knowledge sharing is also very crucial in the transformation initiative.
Yes, like in education line, previously we never thought of we will move so fast into digital online platform. Previously we did have this, but then not all the staff can adapt so fast into this environment.
Yeah, that's right. At part of the part of the training for business transformation is we need to expose our staff to various level of multiple fields. See, for example, okay, I'm running engineering team. Sometimes I requested few of my team members sit into other meeting with legal, meeting with procurement, meeting with sales department, so that they can get more ideas and try to have a solution for them. So like as what Dr. Kelly had mentioned, Dr. Kelly provide a service, like he's from the service provider, whereas I'm from the end user. So we use the service which provided by a third-party company. So that's the important thing, like exposure also one of very important at this moment of time.
Yeah, true. So cool, great. Thanks, Mr. Bala. Dr. Kelly, would you be able to share your thought on how to help the companies to accelerate the digital transformation initiative?
Sure. So basically, to respond to your question, as observed, some of the data analyzed and surveyed by IBM recently, by IBM Institute of Business Value, they have done a survey. In fact, the data has actually resulted in terms of based on the COVID-19 pandemic, is actually accelerating digital transformation at over 60% of organizations being surveyed. 66% of these organizations say that they have been able to complete initiative of the digital transformation in terms of in order to move into the new culture of the digital societies. So this is actually not just only reducing, companies not just only observing reducing costs as part of it, but they are incorporating digital transformation as part of their overall business strategy in terms of it's actually I call it a need or speed of companies or change being a change in the new game, I call it, after this pandemic crisis. So with the continuation of this, as what we said, this COVID-19 will not go away. In fact, we got to live with it. So with the new variants and multiple variants, mutated variants are coming in, we may not know how long this will prolong. But as a companies, we need to re-strategize of incorporating digital transformation as a journey. Like Mr. Bala mentioned just now, it's a journey. It's not a year kind of a process, but it's a journey that takes that is already become like your DNA in those companies. So especially in order to accelerate this, basically measures should be taken to ensure that people who still staying at home, like myself, which we are moving in post-recovery phase, going back to office during this lockdown. As a people like us, we must individually be able to also take up and learn, like what I mentioned just now about talent, reskilling and upskilling, in order to pick up all the digital skills that in order to be able to effectively use some of these digital platform in terms of communications, right? And it's obviously can be observed. In fact, during the lockdown period of over 3 months, we can see that the spike of usage of utilizations of digital tools has been tremendous. And in fact, the internet traffic's there's a shown of result that it's also spiking up. So that shows that we are slowly, as an individual, we are slowly adapting into the digital societies. So this actually gives us a good lesson. Actually, this pandemic gives us a good lesson whereby it actually drives the acceleration of massive utilization of digital technology, and it is believed to be accelerated once the companies are opening up in order to ensure the business resiliency, sustainability, and efficiency. The usage of digital technologies and platforms become critical, and companies will need to adapt to this new normalcy. There's a survey done by McKinsey in US market shown that US consumers during the pandemic crisis has accelerated adoptions of digital channels in retail banking, entertainment, buying groceries, and more in the whole global aspect as well. This data shows that first-time users are shifting their behavior on utilizing digital channels, like what you mentioned just now, Ms. Go. You have for the e-wallet, right? So
Yes.
you got to force yourself to use e-wallet due to that reasons. Obviously, that's where I think the emphasis of government looking at 4IR has become a very important aspect for us actually to realize in terms of digital realizations of business in Malaysia. So with this crisis, actually, we also, while we see that the use of technology are still limited, but SMEs, especially SMEs, shown some of the micro-sized SMEs shown low interest in the adoptions of digital technologies compared to those larger firms. But the government policies are driving this, especially to help those micro-sized firms to slowly move the way how they do their business entirely, moving into utilizing digital technologies for digital marketing as a tools to promote products or services. And with that, I think I was glad, especially when government has actually announced they launched the Pelanjalinan Digital Negara, which they are going to basically with that we'll be able to enhance our nationwide infrastructure of digital network bandwidth, which we are struggling now.
Yes.
Hopefully, with that plan, actually, it can help us to cover 83% of fixed broadband with gigabit by 2022, and cross the finger with that. I think it will definitely help a lot of companies to strive on digital transformation journey. This will definitely help a lot of companies, be able to re-strategize those digital transformation initiative, because at the end of the day, it's about also helping to provide a better customer experience in terms of not just to maintain business resiliency and even growth. So with that, I think we hope that with the government trying to implement some of these enhancements, we hope that it can drive a lot of more companies, SMEs especially, or the micro-sized firm which did not utilize digital technologies, to start slowly adopting digital technologies for their business. In fact, it will help. Like what I mentioned earlier, this COVID-19 will not go away. We got to live we got to live with this virus, whether we like it or not, even we are vaccinated. But I believe that with these government policies that is in place, the adoption rate will definitely grow tremendously in Malaysia, or eventually other part of the regions globally as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope that all this will be speed up and we can have a better, internet connection. Yeah, like it or not, we all must learn the digital platform, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kelly. Mr. Bala, I believe you use a lot of broadcasting software in your operation. Yeah, how did they transform during this period?
Most of the broadcast software companies also innovate or transform in a very short span of time. They change their business model from being a long-term subscription model to a short-term subscription model. This really helps the business to operate at the optimum level, I would say. See, for example, the broadcast softwares, like for us during the early part of the pandemic, most of the vendors provide us like 3 months of free access for remote production work until they themselves come up with a business solution or business case for us. So, for example, I would say Adobe. Adobe, we use one of the Adobe softwares. So rather than you pay for the whole package, they came up with a solution where you can pay per software module. That means, for example, Adobe have 20 softwares. Not necessarily you will use all the softwares at one go. So maybe you only use Adobe Lightroom or Adobe Premiere for 1 month. So they gave us an option. I mean, you have the option right now where you can subscribe on monthly basis. So what we did was we further challenged some of the big players. We told them, no, we don't want even monthly. We want on a daily basis.
Daily basis.
For example, you have a ERP system or the backend processing system,
Yes.
where we only use the backend system twice in a month to produce our result. So why we need to pay for the whole year, whereas you only need to use twice a month? So when we challenge them, they start to think differently, and then they gave us maybe a weekly pricing. That still benefit for us. So like like a Dr. Kelly, we was a Dr. Kelly's client at one point of time when he was with HP. These are the trends which we normally use. So one of the biggest challenges was as most broadcast software works in a secure network environment, and suddenly opening it up in the internet domain, and so that user can work remotely was the biggest challenge for us, and also for the software developers. So what we did was we did a lot of due diligence and adopt the best practice which work for us.
Oh, so even now, that means the cost of subscribing this one, the software is reduced.
Yes, tremendously reduced. For example, like most of y'all use Microsoft Office.
Yeah.
Microsoft Office has maybe 10 or maybe 8 to 10 modules inside down there. So if you use only Excel for the rest of your life, why do you need the other portion? So you only pay Excel, which is much more reduced fee. So by doing that, digital transformation is not only you transform your business, and also cost is one of the biggest factor. As a private companies, cost is one of your biggest costs after the SRCs. Okay, staff-related costs is secondary issue, primary issues. The secondary issue is all the other software costs. So where you need to continuously to challenge even the service provider. So we are from the end user perspective. We always challenge people like Dr. Kelly to provide us a cheaper solution.
Yep.
So now we can see Astro also has this one small package, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's under really like how you tailor made to the user.
Yes. Great. So thank you, Mr. Bala. So before we go into any question from the audience as a takeaway, how you can give a short summarization on entire digital transformation for your organization. Can we start with Dr. Kelly first?
Okay, like what I mentioned earlier, since I give scenarios in terms of global perspective and in terms of country perspective in Malaysia. So to summarize this, obviously, like what I said, government itself is also getting involved heavily in terms of digital transformation, with a lot of initiative coming from MDEC, for the 4IR for the nation, 4IR Industry Revolution, Fourth Industrial Revolution, and also the initiative of My Digital, which a lot of companies like Microsoft, Amazon's, and also setting up their cloud here. Obviously, this will help a lot of companies to prepare themselves to start refocusing in terms of their business plan or strategy, moving into the future, to incorporate a lot of these digital tools, which that can help them in terms of being more. At the end of the day, digital transformation is about to stay competitive in terms of business, right? So in this sense, a lot of these SMEs or enterprises, even micro-sized firms, they need to somehow start small in terms of like what I said, is a journey. So they should start small to incorporate digital technologies into their day-to-day business operation. This will definitely help, and talent as well. Coming from the perspective of talent, definitely talent is something that those employees are impacted with, for instance, automations. They need to be reskilled, right, and upskill themselves to be able to learn all these digital skills so that they can remain productive and remain in the company. Like what Mr. Bala mentioned just now. You don't reskill, then you resign, right?
Then you resign.
It makes it very more sense why you need to get yourself the knowledge of digital skills and being certified, even proven that you are actually into this, your credibility in terms of digital knowledge and competencies there. So with that aspects, hopefully most of all these companies will incorporate this as a one part of the DNA of their organizations or business. Yeah. So this is what my so-called short summary in terms of digital transformation.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kelly. How about Mr. Bala?
See, as you know, social distance is currently the most effective way to slow down the virus until we fully vaccinated or we reach the herd immunity. So as a digitalization has stepped in to bridge the gap between the mandated shutdown and a social distancing measure. So without digital tools and technologies, we would have no way to work or broadcast our services to the public. So we continue to work remotely, but the silver lining is that with such a high percentage of our working population now remote, digital collaboration is improving in leaps and bounds. So homebound consumers are turning to digital content to meet their entertainment needs. Like it was published maybe 3 months ago that 60 to 73% of world populations are watching more shows on streaming services due to the pandemic. And Netflix alone saw at least 16 million new sign up in the first 3 months of last year. So like meanwhile, also many film studios also publishing or releasing a new streaming services for the targeted audience such as Netflix and Hulu, rather than theater, because now, okay, for Malaysia, theater will be open maybe in I think they're releasing today, if I'm not mistaken. So we've been also actively working with all the movie labels and all that. So that will opening up a new industry for them. And in Malaysia, particularly, if, for example, like every crisis when we face, there are opportunities. See, for example, now since everybody work from home now, in Malaysia particularly, broadband services and mobile data, they have a new avenue to improve their business by providing more and bigger bandwidth.
Yes.
So it's always works in a 360 circle. One crisis lead to multiple opportunity for others.
Yeah, there are still some business are getting better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
some line are getting better.
I think
So awesome,
yeah.
great.
that will be my takeaway statement.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bala. Thank you, Dr. Kelly. Okay, now I would like to open the floor for questions. If you wish to ask question, you can on your mic or you can put your question in the chat box. Mr. Bala, what is the new reliance on digital transformations post COVID-19?
Like I mentioned just now, like the new reliance will be like we require much more bigger bandwidth for the entire operation to work. One of the big, the challenge which we faced was most of our radio announcers are work from home. That means we cannot relocate the whole studio from our headquarters to their home. So what we did differently was we tried to virtualize the screen so that announcer at home, they have a look and feel like a studio, but the backend engine all run via the backend internet, internet or mobile network. With that, we also have faced some challenges where most of the announcer who stays in high-rise building have a very, very bad mobile connectivity. Let's say, for example, if they don't have broadband services in their apartment, they need to rely on the mobile network, and the mobile network are relatively low in the high-rise building. So what we did was we quickly import some devices from US and UK. We just ship it by courier DHL overnight. Then we try to install a signal booster for all the affected area, affected announcer's house, I would say, so that they have a maximum optimum level, so they can continue to run the show from their home.
Yeah, we really need to react very fast on these problems, right? Because since we cannot go out, so what can we do? We just watch TV, watch show, right? Okay, Dr. Kelly, lots of companies having or is currently in difficulty situations. What do companies need to do to tackle financial and economic situation impacting their business? You see a lot of company closed down due to this pandemic situation.
Sure. I think what I mentioned earlier, of course, financial being a lifeline to the organization, right? A lot of them will definitely need to relook into their financial cash position. They may need, I think the government is also helping with a lot of these initiatives that's going on, programs for them, as also, I think the loan as well for moratorium, all this. These are actually helping those companies to restart their business while we're moving into this recovery phase. And that initiative alone, it's also helping a lot of these companies. But I always want to emphasize one thing. If you don't start your digital journey today, you will definitely be left out. So no matter what, this is not coming from a service provider like what Mr. Bala mentioned, but it's coming from a standpoint of a digital society, which we are going to embrace on some of these, embrace on these new digital technologies. So we need to continue. And companies need to definitely continue to embark in or embrace in these digital adoptions. Whether you like it or not, if you don't do it, then you'll be moving backward instead of forward, right? So that is my take. Yeah.
Yeah, like what Mr. Bala said, reskill or resign. Yeah. Yep. Okay. So any question from the floor? If not, then so let me conclude by saying thank you so much for sharing with us your valuable insight and experiences. Yeah, Dr. Kelly, Mr. Bala. Also, I would like to thank all audience. Thank you for attending our webinar here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. Thank you.